Yo, good evening. Man, it's been a long time since I've been on a night show. I didn't miss them, but at least it's football. At least it's football. I have no problem doing this whatsoever. I like doing nighttime football. We'll run this right up to lock. Little Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs action to kick off the season. Eagles, Packers tomorrow, Sunday night. Rams, Lions, and then Jets, Niners. We got a good slate of primetime games for sure. So I'm excited. Hopefully you are super happy to have you guys back. If you were with us for the strategy shows throughout the week, Showdown strategy show today, welcome back. And an additional welcome back to you guys who are joining us for the first time since the football season ended. I'm Dave Loughran. That is Greg Ehrenberg breaking down a Showdown slate tonight. $1 million up top on DraftKings. What's up, brother?
Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of reasons. First off, first slates of the football season, it's always good opportunities. Contests are usually softer, where you get a lot more casual players, or also every once in a while you get overlay for the first week of the season. But also, I've talked about the same shitty baseball slates for weeks and weeks and weeks now, and I get to talk about something else. And even at the start of the season, I get excited for baseball, but then when it's the only thing I talk about for like the entire summer, I just get so excited to do something else.
So I was looking at our YouTube analytics today and on the Stokastic side, and I'm like, all right. Oh, I see Josh did the strategy show today for a Thursday. It's like that couldn't be more than 23 minutes. 58 minutes. Can you believe it?
Solo too.
Solo.
He was hyped to talk about baseball.
The gumption in that man. No, I'm saying usually if he's going solo for a Thursday baseball slate, yeah. No, anyway.
He loves it. He just pretends to not like it.
Anyway. Well, let's get into it. Have some fun with this. And we'll make it happen. I was over on Bet365. They're maybe the only book that has any decent promos today. Lamar Jackson for 1+ touchdown boosted to passing touchdowns boosted to even money. Same game parlay. If you play 3+, $50, you can spread it out across as many as you want. Just get to 50. $10 bonus bets for every touchdown scored tonight. Those are solid, really solid.
Yeah, and Bet365, they also got the good sign-up offer. It's low limits. There was one good FanDuel bonus as well. I'm trying to remember what that one was. But yeah, I did see Bet365 like a crazy, crazy good one.
Yeah, link in the description and in chat, by the way, if you're trying to get in on that. It's also Bet5, get $200 in bonus bets. So they're just throwing everything at you. It just went live in PA. Figured I'd throw that out there to you guys if you're looking to get in, because I tossed it to the guys in the premium Discord as well over on OddsShopper. All right, you ready?
Yeah, man. Let's get into it.
Apparently, somebody in chat was hoping that I had have been fired by now. Here I am, pal. Oh, the disgust on his face when Laffy pops up on screen and says, "I'll be here all season, partner." All right, so let's make it happen. Matt and I were saying this morning, we like the greasy type games where you're like, do I play, who am I playing today? Roman Wilson or Van Jefferson? But this is not one of those. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, throw Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry into the mix, and Xavier Worthy. He is, I saw you do the video on Twitter today. To me, he might be the most fascinating character of this entire slate. Like that, because he could go 1 for 6, or he could have like 3 for 80 and a touchdown today.
Yeah, which I kind of had highlighted too in like that video I put up. It's just a 2-minute video where it was our projections were up and I had some time between meetings earlier. I was like, I'm just going to put this video together, building a lineup with some contrarian options that I like, because I wanted to build a lineup with Mark Andrews at the captain spot, see if I can make a lineup that worked. And Xavier Worthy at $5,800. Couple things to like about him from what you had said there is, first, the ownership isn't all that high. There's an incredibly wide range of outcomes, which is why I think the ownership isn't incredibly high. People get afraid of the floor, but the ceiling for Xavier Worthy is he could end up being a Tyreek Hill type player for Patrick Mahomes. He could be a downfield target that ends up having massive plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. You've also got Hollywood Brown isn't going to be suiting up. We don't know exactly when he's going to be debuting, but we know he's not going to be playing today. So there's opportunity for Xavier Worthy. But on the other side, like you had said, it's his first game. We don't really know that much about him. If he ends up being a guy who's in on like 20% of the snaps and only gets a couple targets, it wouldn't be shocking, but I really like the upside for a GPP purpose. So he's certainly going to be one of the guys I'm overweight to.
Me too. CB, this is how you know football's back. CB in chat says, this dude trying to boost Worthy so everyone plays him. Why would I do that? But everyone who plays him be screwed. I'm avoiding Worthy. I'm good. I just said he could have 1 for 6, man. In the preseason, 2 drives with Mahomes. Mahomes targeted him 4 times, and 2 of them were 20+ yards downfield. And then Wentz came in. They had a 3-play touchdown drive, and 2 of those passes, both completions, went to Worthy. One of them was a touchdown. So all I'm saying is the guy, like, you just said it. We don't know. You know, what if they use him like they used Tyreek Hill? Not in game 1 at all, but Termite said exactly what I think you and I are saying. 1 TD for 60 yards is all he needs. Or he has 1 catch for 6 yards. But yes, he's a burner, and he's also someone that Gajeski was pointing out this morning. They can scheme up to use him anywhere, and his breakaway speed can get you there, you know, something in the flat. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And something else too. Do you remember the Chiefs' first game last year when they played in also same thing, primetime game, opening up the season? And I'm kind of thinking about this too, as I'm building some of my lineups. Rashee Rice ended up, if I remember correctly, ended up being in the winning lineup for the Chiefs' first showdown game of the year. And he was like 5% owned just because people like, we don't, and Xavier Worthy, by the way, is not anywhere close to 5% owned, but there is something to be said for, we really do not know what the Chiefs are going to be doing with their pass catchers to open up the year. And I just want to be targeting the guys that I view as having the most upside.
Yeah, that was the game where Kadarius Toney was popular and terrible. Kadarius Toney was the Detroit Lions' best offensive player in week 1 of last season.
It's the worst game I've ever seen from a wide receiver in my entire life, because it's very rare that a wide receiver could have such a bad game that you could vividly remember it. He had 3 drops. One of them was a bobble that turned into an interception. And then I remember he also had like 1 play that ended up going for like a massive negative loss as well. I think he might have, did he fumble a punt or something also? It was the most disastrous game I've ever seen from a wideout.
It was terrible. And Sky Moore was also popular, if you remember, in that game. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, that was my guy last year. I remember that. It didn't go well.
No, it didn't go well for any of us. That's why nobody went to, that's why no one went to Rashee Rice. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to go back to it. Obviously, go back to Kelsey. What I want to know, when you're looking at this slate, you have so many good options. What is your process for prioritizing them, right? Like, it's not, you obviously, if you're playing a lot of lineups, you're someone that's pretty much going to automate the process, and we'll build some lineups on this show as well. By the way, PFF gave him a 29 offensive grade in that game in week 1, Kadarius Toney.
29 out of 1,000? What was it out of?
But how do you, I want to help the people out here. There might be some people, you know, they're coming back. It's been a while since they played Showdown. How do you go about prioritizing, you know, certain top tier players when you have a lot of them on a slate with Baltimore, Kansas City?
Yeah. So one thing that does really help me is obviously our Sims tools, just in terms of, in the past, I used to, and this is where things have changed for me, because I didn't used to have a good way for figuring out dupes. I always found that to be the most difficult thing about like 2-game NBA slates or Showdown NFL slates is I think I would get unnecessarily contrarian because I just wanted to make lineups that I didn't think were going to be duped. So one thing that I do now is I'm more apt to target guys like Patrick Mahomes in the captain spot. I might not have done that as much in the past, but now my lineups, I've got Patrick Mahomes in 40% of my lineups in the captain for today, but I've still found other ways to be unique with it. I know that doesn't really directly answer your question because you'd ask, how do I prioritize the top end guys? A lot of it for me is I run my stuff through the Sims. I look at my top lineups, and then I might tinker around a little bit with individual players that are maybe contrarian. I want to get into more lineups. Or maybe there'll be something like Mark Andrews. I like in the captain spot. I'll individually boost him to get more of. But I really do let the Sims do a lot of the heavy lifting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do a lot of that with the single lineup sims too. You build a few different lineups, and or if you have the single lineup sims, another thing I like to do, I like to run the actual sims first, Greg, and see what type of lineups. Like the one lineup that I got up top, and I did boost Xavier Worthy a tiny bit, very small amount, was a 5-1 Kansas City Baltimore stack. Now, granted, when I'm building this though, it's 30% to first, 10,000 in the contest generator. Like it's a clear large field build. I'm not building that same lineup for a smaller single entry. But at the same time, the $5 single entry on DraftKings today is $125,000 prize pool. So even some of the single entry stuff is a pretty big prize pool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the size of like the big baseball contests that I've been playing for the entire
Exactly.
summer, basically. Those like the throwaway or even
Yeah.
like the third iterations of a DraftKings GPP for football. It'll be bigger than the size of some of the marquee baseball contests over the course of the summer. And then, yeah, it's still something where you have to consider dupes and things along those lines because there are so many people in those fields.
You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable when it comes to Showdown, though, in large field tournaments, right? Like you look at some of these lineups, some of them have two defenses, and it is week one, too. Crazy things happen in week one, a Thursday game to open up the season in week one with two quality defenses. I know both of these teams lost some pieces on defense, but you look at both of these teams, great head coaching, great defensive coaching. Spagnuolo on the Chiefs. You lost Mike McDonald for Baltimore, but I don't think it matters. Just overall, there are some ways to get weird. Another thing, another lineup I built, and we'll talk about the players, but I think this might actually be more helpful in some sense. I built one that at first glance, I look at it and I'm like, okay, that's actually a really solid lineup. It's probably going to be chalky. But then I realized that it's got 2,500 left over. So it's nothing crazy. I'm not going down to a $200 player. I'm not playing Mecole Hardman. I don't have both defenses and a kicker in there. I just left a bunch of salary on the table, went with a little bit cheaper captain, and have a lot of salary that people don't like doing.
Yeah, I have no issue leaving salary on the table really at all. I actually think it's almost necessary for FanDuel because when I'm building my lineups out for both sites, one thing I noticed with FanDuel is across my top lineups that end up coming simmed out, almost all of them have either Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson in the MVP spot just because there's such a big projection gap between Mahomes, Jackson, and then everybody else on the slate. Then it's like Pacheco, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Derrick Henry, a lot of those guys kind of grouped together. So if you are going to be building lineups that have Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in that multiplier spot on FanDuel, that's what a lot of the field is doing as well. And really the only reasonable way to differentiate those lineups is just leave salary on the table. If you build any lineup for a FanDuel single game contest today that uses all of the salary and then has Lamar or Mahomes in the MVP spot, it's almost certain to be duped a bunch of times.
On FanDuel, do you look at that as just you don't want to do that at all for like you
Yes.
personally?
Another thing I'll do as well for FanDuel when I'm building lineups out in our sims is I'll filter out any lineup that uses all the salary often.
Okay. By the way, this game is looking like it will be delayed.
Ooh.
Severe thunderstorms right now. I'm looking at a video of it on Twitter, and it is pouring in Kansas City. So I don't know how long this is going to last. That I'm trying to pull up the radar now. That could definitely impact this game a lot if it's going to rain. It wasn't supposed to be this bad. Let's see.
I might do a negative ROI boost to kickers then.
It actually doesn't look great. I'm no meteorologist, but this fucker's hanging around the stadium. Let's see.
I've got this really good weather source I use. It's called google.com. And I'm going to go check out what you're looking at there. Cause yeah, if it's expected to be windy and rainy, then that has to be a little bit of a downgrade to kickers and a little bit of an upgrade to the defenses.
It looks like it's going to be fine up until the second half. Maybe, yeah, probably up until the second half. I think it'll be all right. I'm looking at the radar. I prefer to look at the radar. Not the smartest man alive, but I know the big red blob hovering above the dot on the screen is not good. Should be all right. The game's going to
So I
play.
was
There's zero chance they don't play. If they didn't play this game, I would be shocked.
So the one thing I wanted to look at that I can't see from the radar is the wind. It doesn't look like it's going to be windy to the point where that's going to be an issue. It's only showing like 5 to 10 mile per hour wind. So I don't think it's going to impact the kicking all that much.
Me neither. And John Prince, I agree. End of game could get ugly. That's the way I see it. Chad says I have it on TV, clear skies. Yeah, what I'm saying is it looked like it was going to be delayed because this tweet that I was looking at was from 15 minutes ago. And then it looks like another storm's coming in later in the day. Either way. Or later in the night. Talk to me about the pass catchers for Kansas City right now, and then we can switch over to Baltimore with Kelsey, Rashee Rice. We talked about Worthy. Seems like it's just a tolerance thing with someone in Xavier Worthy. For me in showdowns, I prefer to embrace variance, particularly when I know that there's a very good quarterback. I think that just makes it more appealing, even in the captain spot. Other people would rather play it safe. What about the rest of these guys and the cheap options? Because it gets ugly at the bottom.
Sure. So as far as Worthy goes, he is my second most rostered pass catcher from the Kansas City Chiefs. First, it is Rashee Rice. It's actually not Travis Kelce. And this is really a price point thing because I'm really prioritizing the quarterbacks. And because of the price points on Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, if I want to get to a lot of them, the opportunity cost, I just can't get to a lot of Travis Kelce. He's $9,600 in the flex spot over on DraftKings. Also, if you look at him over on FanDuel, he's fairly expensive over there. So if you want to roster the quarterbacks, it is kind of hard to jam Kelce with those guys. Not that Kelsey's a fade for me or anything. I'm just underweight to the field on him. And then I'm overweight to the field on Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. But it's Rice number one for me. He's the guy who overall I think benefits the most from Hollywood Brown being out. Rashee Rice was getting a ton of targets from Patrick Mahomes in the second half of last year. And it's something where I think they built a good rapport over the course of the year. And by the end of the season, Rashee Rice was one of the best fantasy wide receivers that we had in the entire league. And he's just not priced like it for the first slate of the year. So I think points per dollar, he's the best overall value on the slate. I know we often think about like 1K guys or 2K guys as being the best values for Showdown. But for the first week of the season where there's not a crazy amount of injuries, it's Rashee Rice benefiting from the absence of Hollywood Brown that makes him, to me, the best points per dollar play.
Okay, I get it. Rashee Rice, interestingly, though, like him and Xavier Worthy don't really, in a huge way, cannibalize each other because they're going to be used differently. Rashee Rice, his average depth of target last year was 5 yards. He was just amazing after the catch, like top 3 in yards after the catch, up there with, Tyreek Hill and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, just a stud. But yeah, I mean, I have no problem playing both of them together. I have no problem pairing any of these guys together. The issue I have is when you get down to some of these. Last year, Kadarius Toney was terrible. Sky Moore was supposed to be, a breakout player. He ended up being terrible. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They're like, all right, we don't have Tyreek Hill. Maybe at least we'll have a burner, a deep threat on go routes. He was terrible. Should have beat the Eagles. I remember that game as an Eagles fan. He just dropped wide open touchdown. They should have won way more games last year. So once I get down into this, like just into the cellar of this Chiefs offense, maybe I'm crazy, but I'd probably rather have Noah Gray over Mecole Hardman, any of these other guys, quite frankly. Like Justin Watson is a little bit, he's the one guy that's kind of in no man's land. He's at 4,800, right? Sky Moore's a lot cheaper. Mecole Hardman's a lot cheaper. Noah Gray's a lot cheaper. Justin Watson is the one that's in no man's land if you're not including Xavier Worthy. And I think he's fine because he does get some deep opportunities, but I don't have any interest in any of those other guys outside of some shots on a very cheap Noah Gray. What is he? $1,600.
Yeah, Noah Gray, $1,600. And for a lot of these cheap guys, often you will find, especially on a slate like this, where there's a lot of studs. I mean, we've got beyond just Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, Travis Kelsey, Derrick Henry is on the Baltimore Ravens now. If a handful of these expensive guys go off, then it's just going to end up being a lot of these slates. Leave the dumb shit that happens where it's like, who's the third string tight end that recovers a fumble in the end zone? What was that, 2 years ago, where that happened on like half the showdown slates? A third string tight end would randomly score a touchdown and be in the optimal lineup.
Every game.
Happened.
Every
game.
game.
Just time and time again. So because there are so many studs on this slate, I don't have one cheap guy who I'm like, that's the guy. But I have a handful of them that are very low owned that I get into like 5 to 10% of lineups. And of those guys, my favorite one is Noah Gray from the Chiefs, Lofty.
Okay, so we're on the same page here.
Yes. And another thing to consider as well is we saw at times Travis Kelsey be limited last year, if you remember.
Yes,
and
I do.
It's something that we've seen Andy Reid talk about, is saying the goal for the regular season is, well, obviously, other than to make the playoffs, is to make sure their guys are healthy for the playoffs. And I think that was a massive reason why we saw some reduced snap shares from Travis Kelsey at times last year. And if we see any of those scenarios play out this year, not saying it's going to happen necessarily game one of the season, but for $1,600 with Noah Gray and us looking for salary savings, just the chance that Travis Kelsey plays a slightly reduced role at points in times this year, all it could take from Noah Gray, like 2 catches for 15 yards, and the studs go off and he's in a winning lineup.
Matt and I were shocked by this morning when we were looking at it. Noah Gray averaged more than 50% of snaps per game last year.
Yeah, he played a lot.
He also just inked a 3-year, $18 million deal this afternoon. How about that?
There we go.
Yeah, not that means they're not like, all right, we got to get Noah Gray the ball now. The man just got paid. Feed him. Of course not, but everything you're saying makes sense to me. I'm with you. We had a super chat from Chris Williams. Great show, fellas. Thanks, man. Just curious, any word on NFL coming to playback? You've been in communications with those guys. Do we have any thoughts on what's going to happen? Because I would love to do NFL on playback.
I know they're working on it. That's all I know, though. But yeah, we have talked to them recently.
Okay. Random stuff, man, with a $20 super chat. Feels good to be back. Hell yeah, man. Won a 13-leg money line parlay last year. Jeez. That's straight lotto ticket. Thanks for the advice. I'm not going to scroll back that far to prove it, but thanks to you guys. Hey, I believe it. I believe it. Or thanks for you guys, he said.
Follow-up question for random stuff, man. Just throw the answer into the YouTube chat. What was the payout on it? Like, were you parlaying a bunch of minus 500 favorites, or this was just like a D-gen touchdown parlay that paid out like a massive amount? But congrats. That sounds crazy.
I mean, if it's NFL, he couldn't have been parlaying that many. 13. I mean, I doubt there were 13 like minus 500 money line favorites.
Yeah. I mean, it says he didn't say football. That was why it said,
true,
like, it
yeah.
kind of, it reads under the assumption it's football.
It was insinuated.
It says 1 of 13 out of 13 money line parlay. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what the payout was on that.
All right, Isaiah Pacheco. I want to talk about this
one more thing, just because this super easy super chat to answer that somebody left us. Nick wanted to know, does the Sim ROI account for dupes? Yes. It's one of the best parts to me about our Sims tools, both for the single lineup generator as well as our contest generator and pre-contest Sims. It does account for dupes. And also shout out to Chris Williams for gifting out the 10 YouTube memberships. But yeah, you don't have to make any kind of adjustments for that. Our simulations do take into account how often lineups are expected to be duped.
Yep, exactly. By the way, this is over. Well, if you're going to do it, you want to do it now. All of our tools, the core weekly package. So all of our tools for the entirety of the first week. So Thursday night football tonight. You still got time. You still got 25 minutes, actually more than that. I think 8:40 start now. You still got 45 minutes. Thursday night football, Millie up top. Friday night football. Sunday early slate, main slate, afternoon slate, Sunday night slate, all of those weird, obscure slates, and Monday night football for $1. That's the single lineup sim. That's ownership, projections, premium Discord, the actual pre-contest sim, contest generator, late swap, post-contest simulator. If you don't know what any of these are, I shouldn't even need to talk. Who cares? You go, you say, you know what? I have $1. I would like to check these tools out. I would like to be like Short Gamer TV or Steve or all the guys that won $1 million last year. We've had massive, massive wins since the Sims came out. Now we've got the single lineup sim. It's all $1 for every single slate, not each one individually, every slate combined $1. Links in the description and in the chat. We're only doing this for week 1. So if you're not in yet, Greg, now's the perfect time to do so.
Yeah, and if you want to know how anything works, like Lofty said, I mean, it's $1. You can just try it out. But also, I've got tutorials I put for everything that's all up on YouTube now. And then also, any package you sign up for, it comes with access to our Discord channel. To get into our Discord, you could ask myself questions over the course of the day. If you got a technical question, you could ask our devs, because everybody who works here is in the Discord channel. So if you do join and you have questions, just hop in Discord and you can ask away.
$1. Link in the description and in chat. Check it out. All right, so Isaiah Pacheco, there is no Clyde Edwards-Helaire behind him. We already know that. He's been ruled out. So what does that mean? I'll tell you. It means we have Carson Steele, and then you have Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine was just signed on, what was it, Wednesday? And he's expected, like, so if I had to guess, Perine is the number 2 tonight, and I could be way off. This guy led the entire league. Anyone with 20 plus targets, I think he had 50. In every running back, he led in yards per route run last year. Like, he is a good pass catcher. They no longer have Jerick McKinnon. I think he's a wonderful fit for this team. I definitely don't think he's going to be fully worked in week 1. I think I'm not saying, I don't have any right now. Actually, I do, not a ton, but I don't know how much he'll be used. He's not minimum salary, but I think he has a role tonight.
Yeah, I do as well. And then another thing to add as well is, if you're going to plug any player into an offense who's a veteran that signs on short notice like this before a game, running back's got to be the easiest position to pick up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Especially a veteran like Perine that's been in the league enough years. I think so. Yeah, like you're saying you're not learning the full route tree and everything?
Yeah. So like, I don't think he's going to be, like going out wide and running routes or anything like that, but can he be the third down back who, maybe catch a pass out of the backfield, could maybe run, like a draw up the middle or something like that. And once again, at 3K, it's not going to require all that much for him to be in a winning lineup. He's not my favorite punt on the slate, but he's certainly in play. I think he's going to see the field.
Me too. By the way, Hugo, I thought he was insulting you when I glanced at it because I saw your name and then jackass and dumb. But he actually said, Greg, those tutorials are clutch. Minimizes the chance you look like a jackass asking dumb questions. They're great, but honestly, there aren't dumb questions if you're just learning how to use these tools. Like, man, let's be honest. You're not asking Josh, right? You're asking one of us.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing too is to correct you a little bit. There absolutely are dumb questions.
Sure.
But I will answer all of them, and I will not make you feel dumb for asking a dumb question. But yeah, I certainly see plenty of dumb ones. But I'd say 99% of them are totally reasonable. Whereas other ones, it's like, yeah, dude, you forgot to turn your computer on. But a lot of them, it's just, I understand people don't understand something.
I try not to disparage, especially if people are paying to use the tool. It's like, why would you? Anyway, Chris Williams, again, super chat. Since NFL's back in Lafayette, I have to say it, atone for your sins. That's right. How did I not remember? Atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. We're at 162 likes with 1,600 people. We should be 500. 500. If you did forget, tone. Subtle reminder, simple request. Take a single second, hit that thumbs up. Bring yourself some good karma tonight. Hit that like button, folks. Also loving the Sims. Great stuff, Chris. Every time Chris posts that screenshot or that super chat with bring good karma tonight, he always seems to win afterwards. So I think this is a selfish, self-fulfilling prophecy, but I love him.
And this is Chris's jam too, because usually when we're doing basketball shows or baseball, Chris is asking us about the Showdown slate. He's asking us about the late slate. Now everybody's playing the slate that Chris is playing. So it has to mean good things for him.
Has to be. And Jorge, what's up, brother? Thank you. Thoughts on Xavier in the captain spot? Yep. No problems with it at all.
Yep.
At all.
boom bust option, but there's certainly a ceiling there. Like, I would much rather roster him than the majority of guys who are priced around that range. So, well, part of there really aren't other guys priced around $5,800, but if you go below that a little bit, it's like Rashad Bateman at $5,200, the kickers, Justin Tucker at $5K, Harrison Butker at $4,600, Justice Hill at $4,400. None of those guys, in my opinion, realistically have the upside to win a GPP in the multiplier spot. Xavier Worthy does.
Yep. Also, for what it's worth, so I don't forget, because we're going to talk Baltimore now, I don't want to go too long. I think both kickers are great options in this game. I know people don't like clicking kickers, but in a spot where you have two good offenses, we've seen this a lot, right? Two good offenses and two good defenses, they can absolutely kind of live in between the 20s, get and stall out in the red zone, stall out at the 30. And Butker and Tucker are two of the best kickers in all of football, with it, as crazy as this sounds, like actual legitimate upside. So I don't love them at captain because there's so many other good options. Maybe you could jam every expensive player and captain a kicker, but I actually think that's probably too chalky because that's what everyone wants to do. But I do like them in the flex quite a bit.
Yeah, and just to recap, because at the top we were talking about the weather, and I said I might downgrade the kickers. After I looked up what the wind was, and the wind wasn't super significant, I didn't change anything with kickers.
Yeah, it seems pretty good. Seems pretty good. I like Pacheco. I still think he gets a lot of work. I don't love Carson Steele here, though. Last thing I have to ask you about Kansas City. Anything on Carson Steele? How do you differentiate him from P. Ryan today?
He's $200. So that alone is going to be, if you absolutely needed to save that amount of salary. Here's what I'll say about him. I like him more at $200 than anybody else at $200, but I have him in one lineup.
Sure. All right, let's talk Baltimore. Let's get to Baltimore. So Lamar Jackson was the showdown god for a while. Like, you just had to have Jackson at the captain spot. Mm-hmm. Isn't it wild, though, that last year this guy had 5 rushing attempts at the goal line, 5 inside the 5. That's it. He didn't have that many. And it's not to say that he can't go out there and dominate, as Lamar Jackson always does. He still has a ton of rushing upside, no doubt about it. But I did find it interesting that last year, 7 rushing touchdowns is solid, but a lot of those were from further out. You had Gus Edwards leading the league in goal line carries, leading the league, and led the league in goal line touchdowns if you don't include quarterback Jalen Hurts. You bring Derrick Henry in. How do you not assume that he doesn't have a very similar, if not larger, role when Gus Edwards had 65% of goal line opportunities for the team last season?
Yeah, the biggest.
By the way, real quick, that's not me. That's not an indictment on Jackson. I'm just saying I don't think you need to be captaining Jackson in every lineup.
Yeah, so as far as captains go, I actually do prefer Mahomes to Lamar Jackson. It's more the price gap between them, because you're getting a $1,500 salary saving on Patrick Mahomes in the captain spot compared to Lamar Jackson. So DraftKings, I prefer Mahomes. FanDuel, because of the rushing upside, I prefer Lamar Jackson. So and also FanDuel, a little bit different of scoring this year, where there's a bonus for 100 yards receiving, there's a bonus for 100 yards rushing, there's a bonus for 300 yards passing. But because of the upside that Lamar Jackson has on the ground, I do prefer him to Mahomes a little bit on FanDuel. Also, the touchdowns, they matter more on FanDuel. But you had mentioned Derrick Henry there, Laffy. The thing that scares me about Derrick Henry for this year, his props are dog shit across all books. But like the books are not expecting Derrick Henry to have the same role with Baltimore that he had with Tennessee. His yardage prop, last I looked, it was over under 72.5 for total yards, rushing plus receiving.
Yep. Yeah. But again, touchdowns are 10.5. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, Derrick Henry is negative money to score. He's minus 25, minus money to score today. So, but his yardage prop on the ground isn't that high. You're going to need Brandon Katz is back. You're going to need the touchdowns there. Are you cool playing Derrick Henry and Lamar together on this slate?
If I was hand building a lineup, like running a lineup through the single lineup sims, no. if I'm just playing 150 lineups and like they landed in a couple lineups together, it's not the end of the world. My preference is to not have them in lineups though, because I think that Derrick Henry to have a ceiling is, especially when you consider the props that we just went over before, and that the Chiefs defense should be good at least this year. There's a lot of turnover with defense. You never know on a year-to-year basis, but the Chiefs should have a very good defense this year. That I think Derrick Henry is very dependent on touchdowns to hit his ceiling. Lamar Jackson isn't quite as dependent on the touchdowns, but he is to some extent, at least for him to be optimal in the multiplier spot. So yeah, I would rather not have them together if possible.
Okay. Yeah, I don't love it either. By the way, guys, don't forget to switch over to the Stokastic avatar before the season starts. If you win, you're going to be disappointed you didn't. There's 6 of them. It's stokastic.com/HOF. We got all these new, if you haven't been around for the summer, we fully revamped our Hall of Fame system. You win once now, you can win multiple times in a year, in a calendar year. You win one first time, you get free month, $200 value, every tool for NFL or whatever sport you want. You win again within a calendar year. Let's say it's basketball season 2. You get a free month of NFL, $200 value, plus a free week of any other sport, Sims Max that you want. You win a third time, top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Even if it's a nickel or a quarter entry, it doesn't matter how much you win. $550 value, all access Sims, every tool on the site, and the crown jewel. You have a 20K plus win, Stokastic engraved ring with your name, Stokastic Hall of Fame on it, spinning display case with the plaque on it that shows the contest, the amount you won, the date, all of that good stuff, and of course your name. You will not find a better program out there, guaranteed for football season. So if you're not rocking it yet, stokastic.com/HOF. Yeah, I'm telling you. Now it's not one and done. It's 1, 2, 3. Wait till you see what platinum is. Someone. Anyway, yeah, check that out. Takes 2 seconds to do it. But yeah, 6 new avatars, a fully revamped Hall of Fame system. It is sweet. All right. It doesn't have to be the new one, John, as long as it's like the newer one before this one, that says Stokastic on it. Obi-Wan, single game sim is fire. Love it, brother. Love it. I will say this much though. Justin Tucker, defenses don't excite me, but I get why they're positively leveraged. In your head, you're never going to get excited about defenses in Ravens Chiefs game, Greg. You just won't, unless maybe you're Ben because he's sick. Right? We love him, but he's sick. But they're going to be, if I had to guess, very unpopular today.
Yeah, for multiple reasons. First off, the name value of the offenses. This is also, it's the first game of the season. This is like as public of an NFL slate there could possibly be. If you're watching the game with just any of your buddies who don't normally play DFS and like, I'm going to build a lineup, 0 of them are putting in the defenses because it's just not what they want to root for. So if you look at our projections, which is, just based on data, we don't have the defenses being all that popular. I would not be surprised at all if the defense is coming even lower on than their already fairly modest ownership projection.
I agree. I think sub 20 in the utility, honestly. We'll see though. Zay Flowers. It's funny because Mark Andrews is probably my favorite value. I'll call him a value almost at 6,400 in this offense. I still don't know what Isaiah, by the way, 840 start for those of you guys who tuned in late. Look at that. Wow. Okay. Good shit, DraftKings. They adjusted
DraftKings moved the start time back to 8:40. FanDuel left it at 8:20, at least when I checked a couple minutes ago.
That's fantastic that DraftKings did that. It gives us a lot of extra time. That's great. Yeah, 29 minutes it's showing. That's perfect. Gives them time to fill some of these contests too. But it looks like they're going to fill regardless. So we got time. I don't have to rush. When it comes to Zay Jones, look past him and you have Bateman. Mm-hmm. And then you're talking Nelson Aguilar. They don't really have much. Nelson Aguilar had a few splash plays, a couple big games last year where he scored on a deep ball. but he was, generally underwhelming. Bateman hasn't produced since he's come into the league. I know in camp there's very high hopes. There's a lot of hype surrounding him right now, but the same was said for Sky Moore and 1,000 other players last year. How do you break down these pass catchers? Because just from a pricing perspective, Andrews looks the best to me, and he's a red zone threat.
So, yeah, and part of this too is going to lead into the video that I made that I put out on Twitter earlier. I like Mark Andrews. When we watched it, and Mark Andrews is one of my favorite lowish owned plays on this slate, especially on DraftKings, modest price point at $6,400. So he's the one I like the most from the Ravens. Now, obviously, some concerns. He was injured for a lot of last year. Isaiah Likely is supposedly going to play a lot this year, even though we are going to see Mark Andrews healthy. So 2 tight end sets from the Ravens, but does it ultimately mean that maybe Mark Andrews loses out on some playing time and it's a way they try to keep him healthier this year? I'm not totally sure, but he's way priced down for it. I mean, $6,400 to me is a pretty ridiculous price for Mark Andrews. You never would have seen that in the past. So he's pretty clearly number one for me in the pecking order of guys I want to get to from the Ravens. And then Phil Senzig left us a super chat about some of the other pass catchers from Baltimore. It says, are we sure Bateman might just be better than Zay Flowers? No, the opposite. I'm very confident Zay Flowers is better than Bateman.
Me too. And for the chat who corrected me for saying Zay Jones, if that was me, I assume it was. My guess is you knew who I was talking about. I trust that you have enough deductive reasoning to say, you know what? That's weird. Zay Jones isn't on this team. He might not even be in the league anymore. Is he? Oh yeah, he's in Arizona, right? Yeah, he's in Arizona. Man, I look at Flowers and I look at Andrews and I look at Bateman and all of these guys. I do keep coming back to the idea, though, that Rashad Bateman is going to, by far, be the least popular of that group and be on the field more, if you're just talking price ranges, right? Because you mentioned it earlier, you have the gross backup quarterback range where there's, Chris Oladokun and Devin Leary and Josh Johnson and Bailey Zappi and Tyler Huntley and Ian Book and Emory Jones as well and Carson Wentz. So you have basically a page of backup quarterbacks, which they're not even all on the team anymore. I can't imagine. There's zero chance. And then once you get past that, what do you have outside of kickers and defense? It's Rashad Bateman. So there is a little bit of intrigue for me when I look at him and think, all right, well, Bateman should be out there a decent amount, I would think, unless they decide that, unless Monken decides that he wants to get more Isaiah Likely out there. Isaiah Likely, I mentioned it this morning with Matt, has been the talk of training camp for Baltimore. There's, arguably the best player on the field. Again, coach speak and media speak and all that shit, but he's been really good. So there is that. And if you buy into that, then Isaiah Likely looks good, but he's never performed well unless Andrews was hurt. I don't know if it starts in week 1, but listen, this is a team that doesn't really have much behind these guys. Maybe Bateman does just play a lot of snaps and ends up being the guy you want at 5K and very, very minimal ownership.
I have some lineups with them. I've got 20% of Rashad Bateman. Ultimately, I like the skill position players a lot more on the Kansas City side than on the Baltimore side. 20% might be a little bit overweight to Bateman. It looks like we have him projected closer to 15%. So sure, I guess
you're definitely overweight.
I like him a little bit, but if I was just playing one lineup today, Bateman wouldn't be in it. I mean, Derrick Henry wouldn't be in it. The only skill position player that I'd want to prioritize from the Ravens, it would be Mark Andrews. It's so hard for me to know what to make of some of these other guys. I don't think they have the most upside. I don't think they have a ton of touchdown equity either, because once the Ravens get the ball inside the red zone, it's going to be either Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry, maybe Lamar Jackson throwing the ball to Mark Andrews as their primary ways to want to get into the end zone. I don't think they're going to be drawing up plays for like Rashad Bateman or anything like that once they're close to the goal line.
Maybe not. I ran the Sims, and I'm looking at the simulated player ROI, and Derrick Henry's is very low on this slate. So is Justin Watson, and that's clearly a pricing thing. Rashad Bateman's isn't great, but, you know, I have 15% right now, essentially with the field. Highest simmed ROI for these players when you run the sims. For me, it's Worthy because I boosted him a bit, but Harrison Butker, Ravens, Mark Andrews, those are kind of the guys up there right now, the ones we're talking about. Now it just all boils down to what those lineups look like. So, Jordan, did you run the sims? All right, go to our lineups. And zoom in so we can see these. Greg, I just want to take a look at some of these builds. I'll never forget last year we had the guy on Owner's Box when we ran this, and someone asked us, "Can you run it?" And we ran it 5 minutes before lock. He just finished his softball game and plugged it in, sitting in his car. Just plugged in the top simmed ROI lineup from the tools, and ended up winning like 10K on it, which was awesome. So I like looking at these and seeing what type of builds show up. Is there a way you can expand that more, Jordan, so I can see the stack, like the 4-2 or 5-1?
Yeah, Jordan, take away some of the like cash percentage. Yeah, just you could remove some of those columns. To the left where it says columns. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just for the purpose of this.
He's in chat. Hoover said, "Hey, that was me. What's up, dude?"
He's
Peter
doing
was
it
here
again.
for that
That's
too.
why
That was
this is his favorite segment, when he has to zoom in on the lineups.
Yeah, that was great. Because it was just absurd, but it worked. And why not? Like, you're trying to get a lineup in. I think it was Owner's Box, right, Hoover? Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was. But we'll see. There we go. Kind of. There we go. All right. Baltimore 2, 4, so 4-2. Trying to see how much salary we have left over in some of these. What is that, 800? It'll probably look better and clearer if I do it on YouTube. Yeah, Greg, if you full screen on YouTube, it's crystal clear. Crystal clear. So Mahomes, Butker, Jackson, Mark Andrews, Noah Gray, and Kelsey. See, that to me is crazy because it's only leaving 800, and at no stage is that a bad lineup. Like, that's a nice looking lineup right there. 5-1 Baltimore, Kansas City, Lamar, Tucker, Andrews, Rashee Rice, Ravens, and Flowers. And you're going to look at these, dude, and you're going to a lot of times say how ugly it is. But if you're playing large field, sometimes you're just trying to do stuff that other people aren't doing.
Yeah, I just blew it up on YouTube, so I'm looking at some of these lineups now too. And the one thing that does stand out the top lineups is it's still Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson as the guys in the multiplier spot for those top lineups. And then in turn, we got that salary left on the table, $800 left in salary for the number 1 sim ROI lineup, $1,900 in salary left on the table in the number 2 lineup. These are lineups I normally would say shouldn't be duped, but considering that we just told everybody that somebody last year copied one of those lineups, entered it, and won a GPP, I have a feeling these lineups are going to be duped more than they otherwise should be, just a result of a handful of people picking them off. But yeah, I think these are the kinds of builds of lineups where you're rostering some of the most popular players and some of the highest projected players, but it's still being unique because it's something that leaves like $1,900 in salary on the table, or it's a 5-1 Baltimore Ravens stack.
For sure. And you know what his advantage was? Not nearly as many people were playing on Owner's Box at the time.
True.
So like there weren't just people duping it. 5th one down is a Xavier Worthy captain spot. And you didn't boost him at all, Jordan. Worthy, Butker, Lamar, Andrews, Mahomes. That's a beauty for sure. So I like a lot of these. I really do. That one leaves 500 on the table as well. Yeah, it's good stuff. You want, before we go, since
just like general observation of our top, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Of our top 9 lineups, all of them leave at least a couple $100 in or one of them leaves $100 in salary, but none of them use all of the salary.
And that's not surprising to me at all. What do you say we build a lineup in the single lineups in before we go, since it's an 8:40 start.
Let's do it. Yeah, well, we could build a DraftKings lineup and we'll build a FanDuel lineup too.
Let's do it. All right. Go DraftKings first. I'm going to try plugging Worthy in and see what happens. We've talked about him all day. You're up.
So Worthy in the captain. I also think if you have Worthy in the captain spot, like by default, you have to have Mahomes in the flex spot. It's hard to envision a scenario where he has a big game and Mahomes just doesn't.
I agree. Absolutely agree. All right, so throw Mahomes in there. I'll go. Let's see. Try and think if I would even need a Noah Gray, so I'm not going to go there yet. Here's where I want to get a little weird, okay? I want to go Pacheco.
So Worthy, Mahomes, Pacheco. There is a scenario as well for this game, and not every lineup you build has to keep in mind the exact same game script. Like you could build lineups that apply to different game scripts. There's a scenario where, with there being no McKinnon this year, CEH being out to start the year, Pirine just being signed, there is a scenario where Pacheco is also the pass catching back.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's why I want to try this. That's 100% why. Who do you have next?
All right, so this game script that we've set up seems to imply a Chiefs win so far. We've got Pacheco, who, even though there's probably a little bit of pass catching upside, still for this lineup to hit its ceiling, it's probably going to require at least one rushing touchdown for Pacheco. So one of the pass catchers for Baltimore, my favorite one from Baltimore, is Mark Andrews.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to throw Jackson in there.
Makes sense. And then the last spot, this also, I like to do the same thing as you, Loughran, when I was messing around with this and building lineups earlier. The last roster spot, it typically ends up being a value guy for me. And I just wait for the last. Like, I don't start my lineups by plugging in a value guy.
Me neither. There's no need to at all. It's a similar thing you and I were doing with it's actually the reverse of what we were doing with the main slate, where we would plug a defense in just to see what we had to work with. So who do you want to go with?
I guess just based on projection at this point, in the interest of having a lineup that's going to grade out well, probably should be Harrison Butker. There's just such a big projection gap between him and the other remaining players.
Yep. What do we got? What do we got?
Looking
Not
good.
bad. Not bad. 134. We'll take it. Let's go to FanDuel before we get out of here. And by the way, guys, again, if you're late, $1 for the entirety of the week, Thursday, Friday, all of Sunday, all of month, every game, every slate, every tool for NFL, $1, link in the description and in the chat. All of these tools we're using right here, you got it. For $1. All right, you kick this one off at the top.
I don't even think we're going to be able to build a lineup that projects well unless it has Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes in the MVP spot. We could try. Well, actually, I mean, the FanDuel slate already locked 5 minutes ago. So,
oh, well, screw it. You're right.
This than the DraftKings, but whatever. What does it make a difference? Fuck it. Let's try it. Let's see if we could build a lineup that pulls a positive sim ROI that doesn't have Jackson or Mahomes in the multiplier spot.
Just see if we can do it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to. Oh, did they change the lock time for FanDuel?
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, last I looked, they left it at 8:20. And nice. Yeah, FanDuel moved back to 8:40 as well. So let's ride.
All right, Tom with his central time. All right. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Still, like I said, you get the lock pushed back. We don't mind hanging out for a few additional minutes. You want to try and get away from Mahomes or Jackson at that spot? Let's do it.
Yeah, and if it bombs, then we'll just rebuild
Yeah,
another lineup. We can plug
who
one
cares?
in.
Then we'll hope that it locked at 820. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So if we're not going to go Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, I think we have to be plugging in one of the running backs.
I was going to say
like
Pacheco,
Xavier Worthy, or you're going Travis Kelce, you're going Mark Andrews. It kind of implies that the quarterbacks had a good game as well. So let's go Pacheco and build a lineup in a game script where the Chiefs end up winning, I guess, like comfortably, and they're grinding out the clock late.
Okay, I like that. I'll throw in. Do you want to try dual running back? That's the question here.
So the problem, I mean, the answer is no, but the main reason why is it's hard for me to see a scenario where, realistically at least, where the Chiefs win, they're running out the clock late, and Derrick Henry still has a big game, just because I don't think he's going to be in a ton of pass catching situations.
Okay. Then I'm going to go Lamar. Where are you going?
Let me think.
No, there's no time for thinking on a live show, brother. We got to go. We got to move.
I'm thinking. Also, chat is just a million people telling me FanDuel didn't lock. I figured it out by now, guys.
Yeah.
Chat. I appreciate people responding.
Yeah, it's very kind of you. Einsteinium, thoughts on a Ravens onslaught? I have no problem with that, or a Chiefs onslaught, really. Or, two defense, two kicker, any of that. By the way, if you take advantage of the dollar promo, make sure to jump in the Discord so we can answer your questions and you can join the community.
Let's go with, all right. So if a running back is going to go off, we're kind of thinking it's not going to be a super heavy passing game. Let's go Justin Tucker.
Okay.
This lineup is going to be a disaster.
It's going to be so bad. I should just throw Butker in there to see what happens. Do you want to round it out with just say Mahomes and one pass catcher, but have Isaiah Pacheco up top?
So Mahomes, how much salary would we have left then, though?
Well, I was hoping and wrong that it wouldn't work, that we would have enough for Worthy, but we wouldn't even be close.
Yeah, we've got 10,750. This is why I was thinking too. I was trying to look at some of the pricing and figure out exactly. Oh, there we go. The bots are back in chat.
Let's go. Oh, the sex bots have returned?
No, this is
not those.
The stream bots.
At least I could click on the sex bots.
Yeah.
let's go Mark Andrews.
All right, so Mark Andrews. No, we have 10,500 left. All right, Rashee Rice. This is a shit lineup, but sure.
Let's see what happens. Collaborative efforts on lineups can be bad sometimes.
It's so hard to make a good FanDuel lineup that doesn't have Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes in the multiplier spot. Yeah, it came out as negative.
All right, don't play it. Hey, appreciate you guys. You are the best. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a long day leading up until this point, and we'll have to wait another 10 minutes until kickoff. But for all of you that hang out, support us, we're much appreciative. For all of you who are new to the channel, and also just Weatherman, thank you for that super chat. If you have a question, make it quick. All of you who are joining, hop in Discord, say what's up. We'd love to have you join and build a community out together. Use these tools. Follow Greg at G Ehrenberg DFS, me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing today's show. Greg, we'll see him back here tomorrow for the Sim Strategy Show. I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's a good one. So tomorrow morning, Lofty and I running sims, doing it for the main slate. So check that out. And then also there's going to be another Showdown slate tomorrow because we got Friday Night Football. So there's going to be Showdown strategy show and then also Showdown live before lock tomorrow. So lots of football content.
Yeah, man. And get that avatar rocket. Don't do yourself a disservice. Win with pride and honor and additional money afterwards. We'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.